Hello and good evening. We have just finished watching the what was it, Josh? It was a late night, everyone. I'm sorry. The sixth episode of Survivor 50, The Blood Moon. But here on Super Mario Brothers Podcasting, we're just getting started. Whether you join us live on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook, or catching the audio version wherever you get your podcasts, our mission to watch every merge, blindside, meltdown, and masterstroke continues as this season features the largest cast in Survivor history, 24 returning players from across 49 seasons. And we got a whole new level of chaos tonight. 3 boots, everyone. And we're going to, after this 17-person merger, the Blood Moon struck. And here's the guy who just watched that all and is now howling at the Blood Moon. I'm your host, Dave Mader, joined with the man who's here for the competitions, the chaos, and the clutch performances. If a challenge is brilliant, he's ranking it. If it's a flop, he's calling it out. And in this merge episode where every move mattered, and in particular, an advantage and a particular immunity challenge, even bigger things happening here. It's Josh Foster, everyone.
Heyo.
Hey, Josh. It is a late night. I feel like this was, I don't know, I think this was a longer episode than normal, right? It was more than even 90 minutes, I think. But I wouldn't really know because we got interrupted by President Trump, who wanted to tell us nothing, apparently.
Well, again, it's really funny because we're in Canada, so we don't get that. And we get like some border patrol.
Yeah, it flipped to Border Patrol in Canada. It's like old reruns.
I'm not watching it, but I'm just like, so I left for a bit, I come back, whatever, right? I'm fast forwarding, and it's just like, it's always just, some traveler with some agent, and they're just searching their bag, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, could be drugs.
Like, you didn't tell me about these mushrooms, did you? No. And then they're like, well, you might have to pay a fine, and then that's usually the episode.
Pretty much, because we're so loosey goosey apparently compared to.
Or it'd be like, we're gonna have to confiscate this, and that would be that. So that's normally.
And have a good day, y'all. Or have a good day, eh?
Yeah, it's okay. You can come to Canada. Don't be too scared. It's like there's an American version, a Canadian version. The Canadian version is much nicer. But that's to be expected, I suppose.
Well, I remember seeing this before we get into the episode. There was I've seen clips of Yellowstone. I've never seen the series myself, but there was this clip I saw in one of my YouTube shorts, and basically, I guess they converge at the border like to capture somebody, and the one guy on the American side, he's dragging the guy back to his place, and the Canadian, I think it was Mounties or something. And they're just like, hey, you caught him over here and you took him over to your side. And the character in the show is just like, yeah, he fears our prison more than you guys. And I thought that was pretty funny because, it's
apropos for sure.
It's very true, right? It's it's a kind of a la Narcos and everything, right? Where they fear the American prisons compared to the South American or Central American prisons.
This is true. There are degrees of extreme, and that brings us back to our conversation here. But Survivor 50, last week I said, what are we doing? Is it possible we're getting a 17-person merge going into episode 6? And you and Jaemeel were like, no, it can't happen. It won't be. It's a misdirect, and it kind of is. We end up getting 3 separate tribal councils here after this merge. So it's kind of like another tribe shuffle in a sense, at least for one vote. You also have this advantage here that I guess was not totally in the cards that we have 17 people. So to do 3 tribals of 5 people, we need to take 2 people out of the mix. Ozzy gets this advantage in the merge and has to take a friend to Exile Island, which, we wondered if that twist would be back this season. And of course it has to be Ozzy that goes. If it's going to be anybody. And he takes Rizzo with him, your favorite player, Josh.
Well, and it's funny because, going back to your point about the merge, first of all, they proved me wrong last week. It wasn't like a true 17-person merge. Went from 17 to get an advantage down to 15, down to 3 tribes for 3 tribals. And even I said I think it was last week where There's how many episodes left? They're going to have at least 2 or 3 episodes where they're going to have multiple vote outs. And they proved me wrong. And, it was three this tonight. And, I didn't see that coming. That was, I mean, again, it was, first time for everything. And,
Right.
but again, like the math does not math up. You can't have, only, whatever, 6 or 13, 14 vote outs, and, whatever 6 episodes we have left. Right. So, I mean, it's not going to be the first time, I think, this season. They're definitely going to have at least two more. I would say one or two, probably two more at this rate, I would say, because right now we're down to
I guess now we're now down to 14 after tonight.
And so if you take 3 from the final, so that's 11, and there's 7 episodes left, right? So
Yeah.
would
We're like halfway through the season, really.
yeah.
So
we just finished the 6th episode. It was 13, so it's, and I mean usually the last episode it's like a 2-parter basically, right? So, but anyways, there's at least one, or I would say probably 2 more double at least eliminations or vote outs. I keep saying,
and quite possibly. And just to segue there, I just want to understand: do you feel like this was a good episode tonight? Do you think were you satisfied with 3 vote outs? I know it has to happen. To your point, we have 24 people this season. They got to get people out of here. They're doing a super early merge, and I guess that's the other part of my question: is do you feel like this was successful? That this 17-person merge at this stage?
I think yes and no, because here's the thing. Like, what's that? Oh,
hold the phone. We need to bring in the man, the myth, the legend, the man with the Funkos stacked to the ceiling, and his takes on the pop culture. Where else is there? He's a pop culture tactician who can smell a misleading edit from a mile away. The Blood Moon turns into a full-blown feud. He's breaking it down tonight, everyone. It's Jaemeel Robinson.
Salutations, friends. How you doing?
Good. Glad to have you with us, Jaemeel. We were on a whole bunch of things, but I guess the main.
I was just discussing. We'll get to you next, Jaemeel, about this, because I was saying how I viewed kind of this merge episode, right? And I thought it was good and bad because I mean, one, it was a lot going on. You had 17 people. You had Exile Island. So that was nice. We talked about it. They got to do callbacks to the past. That was nice. It went to 15 people. They separated into 3 basically groups, which we've seen in the past for like 2 groups essentially for rewards and 2 individual immunities. So it went to 3, and then you have 3 separate, group vote outs, right? So, I mean, with the number of people, it makes sense. But the only, I guess, downside for me was that it would have been I thought it would have been really cool if it was like literally everyone at one tribal. Like that would have been.
And they're only voting at one person, or they're still voting at 3 people?
No, I think that they'd have to do something to get more than one person, like have consecutive. I don't know. It would. But
what if you did have everyone like 3 vote outs? There's 17 people at the tribal, and it's just whoever has the top 3 votes, like 3 most amount of votes.
I think the one thing that would have been really cool to see is have everyone together, even though you can't even probably fit everyone, sitting side by side in 2 rows. But I thought that's the only downside. I thought it'd be really cool.
Well, some of us are already taken, some of us are not. So you're gonna, we'll have to see how that goes. Guess who's who? Now, Jaemeel, okay. Before you start, we had this whole debate last week. Okay, like are they merging at 17? They're not merging. You said, Dave, listen, it's probably going to be split up into 3 groups again for this thing. It's a merge, but it's not really a merge, And I think that pretty much is kind of what happened here, right? Like, and I guess I'm just saying, do you feel this episode tonight was a success? Are you okay with how this played out? I guess the game mechanics that they've set up for this season in this way, and I guess the move on the other twist of this was removing Ozzy and Rizzo and putting them over on Exile, which I think you would be a fan of, right? Like you like to see things like Exile.
It was nice seeing Exile again. I wish that there was maybe something that they had to do there at the very least, as opposed to just being out of the game. Maybe if they had like different for them to play with. I don't know why I'm flashing right now.
I'm just messing with your mic because you're a little you're got a little bit of muting.
Yeah, I put it on because joyous laughter in another room, which is always nice to hear. But okay, you fix that. Regardless, um, it would have been a nice touch if they had like an hourglass there. That would have been fun. At the same time, I think the way things played out is really what I think is the best case scenario for everyone involved, minus a lot of the old school people with one of the eliminations. But a lot of the ongoing narratives are still present. We only got a resolution of one, really. Um, but I thought the way that this episode went, more or less, minus the interruption, was pretty good, pretty fast paced. We already knew what the challenge was, so it was just a matter of when we saw how the tribes were split up and how that kind of it was pretty straightforward as to who might win or who'd be near the end. We got a classic sponsorship in an episode too. This was a
Oh yeah, like but this whole Trump thing interrupting the whole friggin' thing. Like I would have pulled such great Applebee's clips here tonight, and I didn't even have time. Like so, we're starting here. Like it's almost 11. You know, it's not right. And if you're gonna use this presidential power to interrupt all the networks, at least have something new to say. You know, like he comes on to tell us everything he would say in a normal press briefing, basically in a day, which is nothing. But that's besides.
He talked about the shuttle launch, which
Okay, sure, but he could have tweeted about that or whatever, right? Like about most. This was all kind of. Why couldn't he have just like done a live stream on YouTube like us for whatever he had to say tonight? There was nothing that he was like. He just has this power to like take over the networks and like interrupt Survivor again, and to give us announcements that mean nothing. Like last time, it at least was it's just as bad. It was just as like everything like you all hate me and you think that it sucks, but you're wrong, and everything's actually awesome. And then Foster's not seeing any of this. He's just watching the Border Patrol show over on Global on the.
I'm not even watching. I stepped away, do something. I come back and I'm like, okay, it's caught up now. I can skip through, and then it's Border Patrol. That's how I find out. I'm like, oh. Well, it's definitely not over because I know it's not. So I got to go on Twitter and I would like, okay, that's the reason why. Pause it. Wait. Skip forward. Still not done, but, so here we are.
Here we are indeed, and so it threw off the whole night. Like the episode, I think I would be more happy with myself if like I didn't have this interruption. I think we would all feel that way. I can't imagine there's anyone else who was like, no, I liked that this happened tonight, unless you had to like maybe take the dog out for something, for a pee or something, like that would be the only practical reason where this would have been good. But like I think I'm this idea of like, okay, we have a merge and we're taking out 3 people pre-jury. And I think the strategy of that was kind of compelling for me tonight, that we get okay, I don't want this person on the jury because I don't think they'll vote for me at the end. And I think in particular the Jonathan tribe, his swing vote that ultimately gets Camilla out of here. And I think that this idea like, okay, Camilla and Tiffany, right? Is that yeah, that's right. Yeah, Camilla and Tiffany, they're not going to vote for me at the end if I get to the end. And I was like, well, that's probably true. So we'll see how this plays out for Jonathan moving forward. But I think that was like the most interesting game dynamic in terms of how they structured this twist tonight, in terms of like, okay, we're merged, but then we're taking 2 pieces off the board right away, and then we're gonna do like basically 3 tribals. The only thing I'm really frustrated with this, like how they did this season, is that after they all did their tribals, they all had to go back to their beaches, and then they don't get to meet up again until the next morning.
And then they do the proper merge with probably a merge feast.
They'll probably do the merge, but so I guess it's better for the TV episode. But I think it would be actually better for the show and the game dynamic if they actually all go back to camp tonight and they were all fighting about the results of these different votes, and you're seeing it will look better in the daylight in the morning, and I get it, but It's and they have
I think it's yes, because of the structure of the episode, but also in terms of, managing all these individuals and how they probably spaced out the filming of it. Because it is all in one day, so they probably like, okay, let's reset as opposed to having them, all together. You can kind of com like kind of you know uh contain the conversations, because you want to have, as you mentioned before, that, come together where everyone kind of assesses what happens, right?
it will look better in the morning than it will in the nighttime vision. I get that, but I think it'd be more raw emotions. You get more explosive arguments. I think if you go right back now tonight, and I guess if they're going to do this, like a lot of the criticisms we've had at this stage in the new era has been about, okay, they're merging, but they're not really merging. They get them together for like 5 seconds, and then they split them up into two teams, and then they send them into two different beaches, so they're not really merged. At least they're like, okay, we're merging you all together here at 17, and you're gonna spend a whole night together. Or like a day, basically, like, yeah, better part of a day, and then into the next morning before they went into this, here's the clue that to look for the advantage that ultimately Ozzy gets. Rizzo just misses it, right? So I guess they gave all these 17 people a chance to have this whole dynamic with each other for at least one day, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was a good thing. In a season where they have to get 24 people out of here really quickly. And in a season, especially a returning season, I think that this is better. But I don't know if I want this in like a normal Survivor season with a whole bunch of newbies. I'm kind of tired of the whole 3 tribes. I would rather they go to 2 tribes. Like going into tonight, where they had a whole bunch of these 5-person tribal councils where a bunch of people had to light their torches for the first time because they hadn't been there yet. I'm like, yeah, you're merging really friggin' early here. And a lot of people didn't get to go to tribal because 2 tribes are always safe. We get these smaller tribal councils now in the new era where there's only like 5 or 6 people, and there's really only 1 or 2 people that are going to be like sort of up for it, right? Where like I miss like the big tribals, the 2 tribes of 8, this going back and forth, the competition between the 2 tribes. Like that so I guess for returning season, to stay on the positive end, this is better. I think that this, like, let's just get to the merge. Let's get to that, because these people all know each other anyway. So let's see how the dynamics are going to work. And I don't mind seeing, like, if they had done a big, huge tribal here at this stage, how chaotic that would have been. But I think fun, potentially to watch.
I think that would have worked better if there was a jury, right? But other than that, it's fine to keep it this way, especially with, this is really their first time where I felt like people felt less control over the situation altogether. So with that in mind, you want them to at least not have the class watching as they're doing their test.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fine with that. But going forward, right? There should be no splitting. There should be no splitting, with the exception of, they're going to do one more split, and I assume that's going to be at maybe 12.
Well, I don't want another split. I hope they don't. But you feel like it's inevitable. They have to do it.
They're going to do a split, and it's usually going to be the competition where one tribe gets to vote first before the other tribe. And the tribe that gets to vote first gets to watch the second part of the tribe do their thing. They usually do that every so often, and I think we're going to see it for 12, where it's going to be 2 groups.
Is this for game reasons or for just, I guess, production reasons?
For logistical reasons also.
Yeah. All right.
So wait, right now we're at what? We're going to be at... What, we're at 12 right now, right?
Now we're at 14. We're at 14, including 14. Ozzy and Rizzo, who are still in, right?
So 2 more episodes, and then the second episode they'll do the split, and then it's just going to be pure individual.
Yeah, but like, okay, like, but
do you guys think, though, because you're talking about how it being early for the merge, do you guys think that would have been delayed if there wasn't such a decimation with that for early tribe. Like I feel like they've had to do this, I think, in the last number of seasons where they've had to like really like, okay, we can't wait another episode to do a merge. Like this tribe's getting decimated. You're having all these other tribes have to remove people from them, to balance the matchups for the challenges. So like, do you think that it might have been because of how the first part of the season went? Do you think the timing was always planned that way?
I think I'm more inclined to think that they planned it this way. Like this, it's possible that they had to adjust on the fly here and say, let's just merge a little earlier because they saw Colby was hurt, maybe, and they are like, well, his tribe loses again.
And Kyle also got Medivac, right? So that was another part of losing.
To be honest, they probably have a whiteboard, and they probably have, because this is a 50th season, they probably gone out of their way to try to put contingencies as much as possible just in case something happens. So it's like one team gets decimated, we might have to move up the merge to 17 as opposed to 15, because this challenge could have worked with 3 separate tribes because they had 3 different sections separated. So
right, and to the point where they had to take Rizzo and Ozzy out of play here, basically, because they were just like too many to have. So this was either planned for later in the season, maybe, if they had kept with the 3 tribes, if they or something changed, or it was something that they had planned to do earlier, in terms of maybe.
My question is mainly to Foster. Hi, Foster. Do you feel that we were robbed out of Ozzy getting a redemption story regarding this challenge? Because the last time Ozzy competed in this challenge, he went against what's his name? He got Sia Money with the glasses, vegetarian. He was in
Tao?
Yes, and he lost to him, right at the very end, right?
Right.
So, and this is normally referred to as Ozzy's challenge because he's competed in it and he's dominated in it.
Right.
So, do you feel that we lost out in seeing him, Ozzy, do what he does best, which is an endurance challenge?
I suppose. Oh, questions for Foster. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were kind of robbed. Now, when I was first starting, this was before what's it called? Exile, like, was Redemption Island, right? And that's where I saw Ozzy absolutely dominate. He crushed everyone who went there, right? And so it was kind of to your point, like, Ozzy didn't not only get to compete with the challenge in this episode, but the Exile Island also kind of, excluded him from an opportunity to compete in kind of a one-on-one situation, right? If they had done like I'm not very familiar with the Exile Island season. I'm not familiar with how it operated, but I felt that Redemption Island, especially for this season with that many people, would have been a really cool kind of, especially with the hour-and-a-half episode. It would have been a really cool kind of addition to the season at some point. So again, to answer your question, Jaemeel, yes, he was robbed, but it was also, in my opinion, kind of double robbed for someone who's more familiar with Redemption Island compared to Exile Island, where Redemption, they're always competing, in one-on-one or, several. Like, I know there's been some where, you have like a 4 or 5 person, let one person wins, go back in the game kind of thing, right? So again, I feel like all around he got robbed, but from a feel-good standpoint, it's nice that he's made it another episode, I guess.
Right. I got a question for Foster while we're on Foster Talk here, as I was just updating the draft tonight, Foster, and I was looking at it like, who had the worst night tonight? It was definitely you. You lost Genevieve and Camilla, and you lost Angelina last week. So Team Foster officially dead in our draft.
This obviously Blood Moon did not favor me by any means.
The Blood Moon was not good for you.
From a small group standpoint, I was, kudos, and we'll get to the photos and stuff, but, kudos to Jonathan, because I feel like 99 out of 100 new school players would have gone with the younger guys. Jonathan, that was a nice twist from a viewer standpoint. Again, like just seeing this season, I told you before, like Camilla would have to literally just fly under the radar to really make it far into the end because, and they referenced her season. So again, having that against her did not help in this specific situation where there wasn't a bigger target to go for. And if Dee did not have the immunity idol, I feel like she would have been the one voted out in this situation.
Yeah, she would have been she's a target for sure anyway.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But let me ask you this about Jonathan. Okay, like this pitch that Chrissy makes to him. I know I'm jumping ahead here. I'm getting more into the nitty gritty of this Camilla vote out. But this idea that Jonathan has here that okay, like Chrissy says to Stephanie and to Jonathan, we're cut from the same cloth is the expression. Okay, what does that mean?
I think
Wait
it's
until
just
Foster answers. Okay.
I would Foster's answer for what.
Yeah, I think it's from what Jonathan kind of mentioned about being kind of a feeling of an old school, in a sense, old soul player, right? Where it's honest, hardworking, not lie to your face constantly, right? I didn't see his season, so it sounds like that's kind of what did him in that season. No,
is that what did him in? That I'm trying to recall, Jaemeel.
I'm just assuming, like I don't know. Right?
He was a target his whole season.
Well, he says he wants to play different, right?
Yeah.
But I think what it came down to, I don't think it was what Chrissy said. I think what he said was best, where Chrissy was the easy vote, but that's not going to get you the win, right? And he took this opportunity to take out Camilla, which would be better on his resume. It was more of a risk reward situation.
And I got that. I got the logic of that. And he even acknowledges I'm going to have some fallout with some other players. We see like Tiffany and but it was also like Dee and some other players are going to be very pissed at Jonathan after this. And but he said either way I'm going to piss off people depending on what side I take here. So we'll see if the fallout is worse than whatever upside he thought potentially to side.
Mad at him for one episode and then it'll be done. Like it's a nothing burger in my opinion, right? It's not.
So is are Chrissy and Stephanie basically the old school and Camilla and Tiffany are the new school? That's the choice.
I guess based on season, age, like I guess it's kind of a matter of again.
But is that what is that what Chrissy means when she pitches Jonathan and Jaemeel?
Jaemeel has got something to say over here if you're watching the show.
So, what Chrissy means is in terms of how Chrissy played, Chrissy was a dominant physical player and won challenges. Jonathan was also a very dominant player. The reason why Jonathan got voted out last time was because of how physical he was, but also he didn't do well with the women in his tribe. I remember him.
He had that one he was pretty tight with, right?
He had this one, but then the others he did not do well, and eventually he got up pretty early, earlier than he could have.
Well, let me have a quick look. Jonathan came like fourth in his season, and it was he was tight with Lindsay that season. Lindsay went out right before him, and ultimately Marianne won, beating out Romeo and Mike Turner. But so you're saying the cloth is that these are big physical competitors. That's the type of player that they are. That's what Chrissy means.
In comparison to what type of player is Camilla? Camilla is not going to play the way that Jonathan plays, and it behooves her to have that differing type of play structure. So what's going to end up happening is she's going to ride coattails, quote unquote coattails, and then Jonathan's going to be gone. Right? Jonathan's not going to contribute to Camilla's plan. Right? Now, Tiffany was a physical player, but she also wasn't a dominant one. Right? Chrissy was. Right? Jonathan was. Right? And Stephanie also, she older player, right? Loyalty, blah, blah, blah. Right? So I think that's the thought process that is going through in terms of Jonathan. I think ultimately Jonathan made the right decision, regardless of how I feel about Camilla and Tiffany. Camille and Tiffany believing that Jonathan would be with them, I think was a little foolhardy.
Well, they were definitely too confident, and I felt that in the tribal tonight that they thought they had Jonathan's vote for sure.
And I think that wasn't going to be the case. I think the issue that we're going to see going forward is that uh, I think the Camilla and Tiffany um, attachment was also interconnected with D, and
Yes, I agree.
because he burnt that bridge, right? Right, D's going to be mad at them.
I think that's why they thought he wouldn't do it. I think they thought it's not because of us. It's not because of his relationship with us specifically. It's because of his relationship with D. And he knows if he turns on one of us, D will be pissed and he'll burn that. So he won't do it because of that. Like that's ultimately, and we saw in the preview, D seems to be chewing out Jonathan. So there's maybe some truth to that. Whether that matters long term, we'll see. D only has so much influence, in terms, but
Well, I think
that's
D
one.
has a lot of influence, and it's being underplayed because I know any type of conversations post game doesn't necessarily guarantee it to be canon. But a lot of people are saying that a lot of last week's episode in terms of Rizzo's moves was actually D was driving the bus specifically, especially against Charlie, and that it was due to D was the reason why people were collectively just immediately on board, that she kind of changed that direction, not Rizzo. Rizzo was just a narratively easier um, option in terms of presenting information, right? So I think that that makes sense with being a major role. That being said, I think she kind of has to play from that perspective just because of being the only winner remaining, right?
Yeah.
And
Can I
it
give you?
seems like a lot of the women are kind of looped together in that. Sorry, go
I,
ahead.
I, I would like to postulate an alternative theory because I think in the episode they definitely set up. I think it's who is it? It's Sari. Sari gives us a confessional in this episode about there's the new school and the old school, and she defines the old school as being a bunch of people that I get my alliance, I have the people I'm loyal to, and you stick with that to the end no matter what. And the new school is much more like I will vote with my worst enemy for one vote if it gets me to tomorrow, and then tomorrow I'll worry about that person then, right? And so Sari is willing to play more the adaptive, and perhaps that's what Chrissy means. I think because cut from the same cloth is a biblical phrase. It comes from the New Testament. And so I think that Chrissy I think that Chrissy is at least saying we are like all Christians. We know that Jonathan and Stephanie both wear big old crucifixes right on their person all the time, and that's terrific. And I don't know what Chrissy's faith is, but she might be a woman. So maybe that's perhaps like we are in the Jesus coalition together.
Oh my gosh, is this like a and what's the name from Chicago Bulls, an Ivy reference as well? It's all coming together. It's
Like, how
the
do
Christian
do
coalition.
do you think that I could be correct, or do you think that this is probably not
I
what
think
Chrissy meant?
it doesn't make it wouldn't surprise me, and it makes things a lot easier. I believe if it's wrapped up in a kind of religious dogma as well, you know, and
Yeah.
fellowship. Same thing with well, Coach's New Age, thing. He'll rely on. I think he's wearing crosses too. So I think
Yeah.
that there's going to be ultimately the I don't even want to say old school players because I think it's just going to be a lot of the challenge people, right? And they're going to be for whatever reason, Suri is going to be a part of that group, but it's going to be Jonathan, Coach. Um, it's going to be Ozzy's going to find himself in between because he wants to. He look in Ozzy's best interest. He should be protecting the meat shields, right? Because slowly but
Yeah.
surely, you're going to be running into individual immunities, and you know, people are going to be gunning for Jonathan, gunning for all these people.
Right. Well, thanks for being with us, Worldmind.
Thank you for joining us, Worldmind.
As we break this all down. This is very scientific stuff. If you're following anything, let us know. Or if you have your own takes. I think that, like, okay, so whether or not you team up because you're like, hey, let's make a women's alliance, or let's make a bros alliance, or let's make a religious alliance. I guess this is all fair game. I just was trying to understand sort of what, is Jonathan playing that into effect? Does he want to work with Stephanie and Chrissy moving forward, or was this just a one vote thing? Because he's going with the old school people. Right? If the old school game is loyalty,
I think whatever is more convenient.
So he wants to bring a new school attitude to the old school alliance.
I think he wants to show that an old dog can learn new tricks. So okay, what designation is Christian and Devin's? Are they old school or are they new school?
I would say they're old school.
But I don't think that Christian is on the same page necessarily with a coach or.
But coach isn't in his alliance.
He isn't, but.
So I don't think there's just an old school and a new school alliance either. I think that there are maybe a couple alliances in both like schools of thought, if you will.
The Venn diagram has overlaps that people will see. Right? And I think that's what it more or less is versus just two sides.
Yeah, I don't think. You're right. It's more complex than there being two sides, and I guess the result of Jonathan's vote here in getting out Camilla, is it just pissing off the strong allies? If it's Dee and Tiffany, like how much is Sari gonna care about Camilla going?
Sari doesn't care one bit.
How much is Rizzo gonna care? Or Ozzy, I don't think that, right? Remember how Camilla was a little iffy on Rizzo before? I think this could even be good for some of the members of that alliance, or whoever, whatever exactly it is. I guess there's the Sari alliance is how I'm starting. It's kind of like being the head of a family right now. There's so many players now in this merge thing, and I guess there's a couple of factions here. I guess. Who else is out there? I don't know who is Coach with. I guess he was with Colby.
When they all meet, it's going to be Joe. It's going to be Coach, Jonathan. They're going to try to pair up at the very least, right? And then you have Chrissy, who is going to be a part of that, and maybe Stephanie. But Stephanie's also going to be with Ozzy, but Ozzy's also with Emily and also with Christian.
And Christian's kind of with Emily and Devins, but not or at least,
And then Cherie's there, then Rizzo's there. And Rizzo has a good relationship with Dee, but how good is that relationship going to be? As we saw in this episode, and anyone who didn't really watch this episode, we didn't really talk about it. But once they all merged together, there was a lot of sharing of information. And people were not shy about it. That practically everyone knew where everyone's pieces were, with the exception of two things, and that was
very little. Was only things that people had only kept to themselves, like Genevieve,
second idol, Boomerang idol, that she was hoping to come back to her.
She took that to her grave tonight, and no one knows that she told Rizzo she didn't give it to him. So Rizzo now has this idol, and now that she's voted out, Rizzo just gets it, right? Forever.
No, it doesn't boomerang back to anyone.
So if he gets voted out, it's just gone, or maybe it gets replanted or something. But.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
And so,
but the mystery that's going to leave too, right? Just to linger on this for a second, because I do want to talk about Colby and Genevieve getting voted out of this episode. We talked a lot about this Camilla vote, but their votes are kind of interesting in a sense too. I think more the Genevieve one and the story that kind of ended here, because I was liking Genevieve in this season, and her Genevieve versus Aubrey, we get quite the finale here in this episode between after this episode tonight, after this whole Genevieve vote out, I was like, Aubrey might win. I feel like the story of the season might be Aubrey was on this island. Aubrey wasn't getting along. Aubrey had this nemesis in Genevieve. And then somehow Aubrey got Genevieve out in this particular stage of the game. And then Genevieve gave her jacket, but it was
Angela. Where's Angelina?
She was voted out last week.
I know.
You know that this is a different kind of a jacket handoff. This was kind of like she's like where and then Aubrey was kind of like, oh okay, now I get to like. It's kind of like I guess drinking from the skull of your enemy if you were a Klingon or something, right? Like it was. It's kind of like the spoils of war.
Mm-hmm.
If you will. So I thought that was a really kind of interesting part of this episode and how Genevieve's story ends here. Shot in the dark, doesn't get it. You know, she correctly reads that Christian's not with her, I think. And I'm sad to see the only Canadian on this season go on a night where we sent a Canadian to space along with 3 Americans. But it's still a good.
I think that was. I thought that storyline kind of ended in whimper, but it's still, it was interesting to see Aubrey and Genevieve finally see that ending, come to an end, quote unquote, come to an end. I think it was a pretty straightforward vote. It's just, it was just how the numbers rolled out. If she had anything, then something could have happened. But maybe she could have pushed for Joe and just threw Joe under the bus completely. But
I think Joe was probably the best one she could have tried to push for. But I don't think it would have stuck. I think like it just was. I think Genevieve just got unlucky with how the numbers she ended up with this particular group of 5. And then if she could have won immunity, I guess would have been the way to save her, and she didn't win, right? So that's how it goes. And she seemed all okay for it. Now, the other one I want to talk about is Colby. Because Colby, I don't know, he gets hurt here, he's falling apart, and we had the longest friggin' tribal council for him. Like it was a funeral for Colby, or it was a great tribute. They brought in the songs, and like I was nearly crying. I'm like, why am I crying? And like Colby's like, I came out here.
Colby's a great storyteller. He's an amazing storyteller. He kind of ties in Survivor from its earlier seasons, right? He is what the oldest ambassador of Survivor that they can really use, because he fits a demographic that a lot of people respect. A player of integrity, great looking, great shape, even at his age. Even falling apart, he still cared himself and was very charismatic. And he is kind of, I think, a lot more than was it Jenna, Sue Hawk, and Richard Hatch from first season. He is one of those ambassadors that all the people from season 3 to season 49 has kind of run through into, like, have you met Colby? Colby's one of those ambassadors that everyone respects and knows. So to me, it was a no-brainer in terms of voting him out. Even, unable to move and no vote, he still had more gameplay and more juice, as you can say, than Coach did. Coach was barely an option, even with a vote, even fully healthy. No one feared Coach.
Well, okay, so if you're did this tribal that Colby goes out in, do you think they were thinking like, we don't want Colby on the jury? Was that the consideration here? Like, because why not vote out Coach here at this stage?
I think you don't want someone like Colby or Camilla, and also Genevieve on the jury, because they're a little bit too logical, honestly. Right?
I don't know if Camilla is purely logical.
I would think so. I think she's a little bit too logical, and that's why someone like Kyle won a season, because he was able to kind of not be so game body like Camilla was.
Well, it's hard to say, because she voted once as a juror, and she voted for Kyle, who was her number 1. So she voted for her number 1 to win the season. So it's hard to say.
I think throughout the season, like, did she foster the connections that Kyle did? Kyle was close to Joe and Ava, right? Not because just it was strategically good for them, is that he genuinely built a relationship with those individuals. Who did Camilla build a relationship with? Kyle, and that was practically it.
That's true. But in this season, she seemed to have some irons in the fire, but she seemed overconfident in the alliances she had. Stephanie was painting her as this, like, she says one thing to you, but she's actually a backstabber. She's kind of a two-face. I don't know how much you were buying that, or if that was just Stephanie trying to, position this vote the way it went. But
I think that they just know that Camilla double talks because she's a very strategic player and she is whip smart. And just watch what you say around her because she's gonna weasel her way through your words to figure out exactly what you mean. I think more of that than saying that she's kind of two-faced or something.
okay. Foster, anything to add to the Colby and Genevieve eulogies here?
No, I mean, based on the circumstances, like it kind of is what it is. Like, I feel like if it was a bigger group, they all would have survived, even and Camilla as well. It did not fall in their favor with regards to who they were with. They all kind of got voted out for, in my opinion, different reasons.
What Jaemeel's saying was all kind of the same reason. Jaemeel's saying it was kind of they're all too logical. These three that got voted out: Camilla, Genevieve, and
for
Colby.
me, I guess I'm looking at it from an individual tribes, group standpoint, right? So, I mean, Camilla was based on Jonathan's, kind of swing vote to make a move on his behalf. When it came to Genevieve, because Aubrey had the idol and she had been posing as a threat very similar to Aubrey. She was kind of the easy or the logical. It was logical, I admit, Jaemeel, but it was the better choice over Joe, being not as a social threat, if you will. So again, it was based on the tribe dynamic, right? It was it could.
Well, Genevieve says something interesting in her exit where she was like, "Well, I was doing so well, and then I lost this draw." And it was this just kind of like, okay, we all get tossed into these tribes of 5, and if I happen to end up on the wrong side of the numbers, that's just my fate. I can play my shot in the dark, but ultimately, maybe is that what takes out Colby and Camilla and Genevieve here more than anything?
I feel like with Colby, it was more of a again, Jaemeel probably disagrees with this, but I think him not having a vote was kind of the biggest deterrent for him and also being injured. Personally,
he has no vote. He's injured. Everyone likes him. Who wants to let this guy get to the end anyway?
Yeah, but I don't think he would have made it to the end. I feel like that was an opportunity to. I mean, personally, I would have wanted to take out Coach, but also too, with how volatile Coach can be, and you see it in the preview of the next episode, it's better to keep someone like that around because it takes the pressure off you or other people. So again, I feel like just based on the circumstances of each group, it's like you said, maybe to your point, Jaemeel, it was the logical choice if you want to kind of simply put it. But in my opinion, for different reasons, though, I guess is another way to kind of, describe, how it kind of worked out. Because as you said, bringing up Genevieve, Dave, if it was drawn differently, again, or it was in the big group, I feel like all 3 of those would have survived.
Yeah.
If Genevieve was with Colby, on the same tribe, then that would have been fine, right?
Well, if Colby ends up on a tribe of 5 with a few more of his allies, if he's on there with Joe and he's got Joe and Coach with him, he probably isn't voted out here, no matter what. So it's kind of that's what I'm kind of saying here is that it's the luck of the draw a little bit.
And we've seen that before where they do kind of tribe swaps where you have the predominant one tribe have 3 of or 4 of the 6 or whatever it is. And that kind of leads the vote, right? So you kind of can get, share the luck in that sense as well.
But let me ask you this: wouldn't it make a better game if that wasn't the case? If these alliances mattered more, they used to matter more in Survivor. The game does a lot to try to mix up the tribes and make these alliances less effective, that you have to survive even under the most dire circumstances. Is that a good result or a bad result?
Well, no, but it doesn't come to alliances at that point. At this point, in the game, it comes down to more of who was your original tribe. like who do you know personally more, and who do you?
Well, that's
have
still an
spent more time with?
alliance, though. At the end of the day,
Yeah,
that's who
I
you're.
guess in that sense more. I guess more so common interest or
Who
goals.
who are my allies, and are they with
Yeah.
me in this particular in this tribal?
Yeah.
Most of my allies are gone. The allies I've been cultivating through this game, probably in the return in a season like this with all these returning players, that relationship they've been cultivating for years, and probably leading up specifically for this season, So I guess like, is it a good thing that the producers, Jaemeel, are making it harder for these players? I guess like these returning players to game it, right? Like saying, oh yeah, you think you're gonna have all your allies and you're just gonna pick off these other people? Well, guess what? We're gonna throw you onto this mixed up tribe, and now your allies aren't here.
But I think part of the social aspect, and Jonathan was really working on it before the tribes were split apart, was that you can't just rely on your alliance. You also need to get in bed and have conversations and make connections with other people because of this very reason. And we saw Jonathan, even though he was, confirming things with D, he was talking with other people as well, right? And trying to build a rapport, right? If like you can only play the cards that you are dealt, but at the same time you can have a conversation with the dealer, right, when all the cards are together, right, to
Right.
kind of help yourself in a situation of getting a favorable hand, right? So I think that Jonathan did well
Yeah.
for himself in that regard, because he more or less, he was never an option to get voted out.
Yeah, no one wanted to get him out here,
That
and
was
like
one.
sometimes
was
that does
one.
happen with swing votes, right?
And that is because he, like, all the women could have just said, hey, let's just get rid of the one guy. But that was an option because he built a relationship with these people in some respect, and different versions of himself, maybe, right? But that's how you do it and make sure that you're in a good position, right?
Right.
So
And you like take Chrissy here. Chrissy seemed like she was going to be the target. She's ultimately able to flip this around through like persuasion, and like you have her in the draft, Jaemeel, so you must be like, he's like, hey, like my girl here, she's bringing it together.
I remember that season. She only lost because Ben went on a Ben bombing rampage, and they introduced fire and screwed her up.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, but you lost Colby tonight.
Which, if Tiffany had anything to say, he was going to get medevacs.
Yeah, right. Well, and Tiffany's your other draft pick, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm liking your chances. I feel like Tiffany and Chrissy are not in the worst positions.
It's not the matter of chances. I think that
Well,
we
fair
tried
enough.
our best to get a collective group of individuals who could be successful in it, based upon where we picked from the draft, mind you. And Colby, if he got to the final three, I think he could win, but he would never get to the final three. Same thing with Suri. If she gets to the final three, she could win.
Why wasn't she targeted tonight? Like that was the other one. I was like,
because she talked to the dealer before the cards were dealt.
well, that's true. She's reading they're counting cards. Okay. Just before, like, I know we're coming up on an hour, so and it's been a late one. So just the other things we haven't talked about from this episode. With the challenge itself, Foster, did you like the challenge? We've seen this before. Like you have to hold your feet on the pegs, and the way this played out.
I mean, again, as I mentioned, like this is one of the the few kind of repeated challenges that I'm fine with. Like they're good. It's a staple. Like it's one of those ones where you kind of look for it every year, and it's whether it's going to be a battle or not remains to be seen as it relates to two people going all the way. But yeah, no, it also would be kind of cool if in these type of endurance challenges they did show kind of a clock. Like
how long these things goes. Sometimes they will, but they tend to only do that when it's really long, like 50 minutes later.
Jeff will say something or something like that, right? And so, I mean, like, we don't really know how long in between switching pegs and stuff, right? And obviously, they've got it down to a science. They've done these type of games so many times that they know what's the kind of optimal time for,
Yeah,
you
which
know,
how hot it is,
on,
and
on their end to like how how long it's going to take, whatever have you to go between, but at the end of the day, though, yeah, like I mean, I don't have issues with these staple, challenges in the individual, immunities because, just like the challenge show that I watch as well, like that's what makes it part of the way the show it is, right? You're accustomed to things that have kind of a legendary aura around it as they've been, used throughout all the seasons. It's that kind of cookie cutter, kind of more so the tribe ones where you're just jumbling the same things over and over again without various or any changes or modifications, if you will, right? But it is important to have these challenges because, again, it really, especially when they've been so successful in the past, they're memorable and they bring the older players kind of the reminiscence of, the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, I can't think of. I'm having a brain for right now.
well,
But
okay. Let me
point of
segue over
becoming
there,
past
and
seasons.
let me ask you this: did you like the use of the Applebee's reward in terms of like, okay, only one? So you split this group up into these 3 groups of 5, and then whoever has the last person standing of these 3 groups will win the Applebee's
Yeah,
reward. Was that it?
I did like the concept, but I also thought that Jeff was really going hard on the advertising. He was the way he was talking about it.
You didn't
It
like the
was
stakes
very
that were
like
involved?
it was no. Nice one. Well said. No, just it was like Jeff was literally reciting like a commercial script. You know what I mean? The way that he was talking about it.
Oh,
I
he always
understand
does.
the
He always
advertising.
sells that stuff so hard. I have, well, I don't have tonight's Applebee's orders, but like I have many past Applebee's orders with Jeff Probst on the soundboard, and it's always, a classic. He's always any food, and then you get the reactions from the hungry people. They're like, "Oh my god," and he's like, "You have chocolate covered things."
And for dessert, cheesecake and blueberries.
Oh, I love cheesecake.
Yeah, here it is.
It's good. It's big. It's Applebee's.
Right. It's all, I thought it worked pretty well. Like even like how the strategy kind of continued into like the reward portion there. Let me ask you this too, guys. The whole twist here of taking Rizzo and more specifically Ozzy, I guess, who gets this advantage and decides to take Rizzo with him. Did you like how that played out? And do you think, okay, I guess the main question I really have about this whole thing is, did Ozzy and Rizzo respectively come out ahead here because they were not eligible for this tribal tonight? Is one more night of safety going to be worth it, or the fact, are they more vulnerable because they were out of the mix here for basically a day and a change?
They're gonna be fine. It was good for Ozzy because Ozzy would have used something most likely. Ozzy would have been too big of a target. But that being said, he could have possibly won the challenge and would have automatically been safe and have all this hardware. So that's a little bit too much power. So I'm actually glad that we got a little reprieve in terms of that. I'm glad that we get the continuation of the Coach Ozzy kind of narrative that is still going on. We got what's going to happen with Rizzo because that's still lingering. So
because Rizzo says this when Ozzy picks him, he goes, "This is terrible," is what he thinks internally. But you're saying he's mistaken. He'll end up coming out ahead.
Yeah,
he's on the jury now. So like, how can you argue with that? Foster, your take?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I guess, kind of look his perspective, right? I feel like, Rizzo was not happy that he wasn't there, but he, already built those relationships to be safe. And like I said, same with Jaemeel, like was probably good for Ozzy to kind of sit this one out, and not put it. I didn't, it was a good point that you made, Jaemeel, about, not winning the challenge was probably good for him. I was more so, I guess, thinking about having kind of that, I guess, break from the game, if you will, right? Because there's been a little bit more detrimental than kind of necessary.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Were you pleased for Ozzy and Rizzo?
Not for Rizzo, yes, for Ozzy.
Do you submit to the Riz God yet?
God, no, never.
he's not. He's unpopular with many people I talk to about Survivor. They're like, we don't like Rizzo.
No,
But
I feel like again, he needs to be humbled. Like he's way too full of himself. Like he needs to be, he needs to tone it back. Like it's
So Foster, for narrative sake, his humbling is what you're looking forward to.
could happen. Could be the story of the season. Rizzo gets humbled. It's gonna take a lot.
I hope so. I mean, he's really running the high right now. Playing.
What if he
for
wins?
so long.
Not winning.
I won't be
But
back
what-
next season.
He's not winning. He's not winning. Don't worry about that.
But if he wins, will you say, "I submit to you, Riz God"?
God, no, not a chance.
Agreed
Not
with
even-
Foster.
no.
Agree.
You'll never convert. Okay.
Never
Just
in a quadrillion, billion, gazillion. Yeah, no.
Okay. All right, gentlemen.
Okay, I'm signing off anyway, so let's call it a night. And we'll see you all next time here on Super Mario Brothers podcasting. Foster. Oh, I have to jump at 11:30. Okay, it's 11. Go, Jaemeel. It's okay. I'll do the sign off. And yeah, see you later.
Don't forget next week's episode.
Yep. Look out. Tomorrow on Live Long and Podcast, everyone, we are going to be covering the best of both worlds, the two-part epic story, Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 26, and Season 4, Episode 1. Also on the Live Long and Podcast tonight, we were live streaming about the Artemis 2 launch and the astronauts going to space. I did that with Jody and Adam and Heather, and you can check that out over on the Live Long and Podcast channel. And Jason and Steven going on crazy tomorrow on Hey, Did You See This One? They're covering some movie. I don't know which one it is. Jason's got to be here to tell you that part. All right. We'll see you next time here, and I don't know, I'll play a random Survivor clip to call it a night. How about this
For
one?
an afternoon of pastries,
Oh my god.
I can taste it.
donuts.
Wait, donuts?
You want something a little more savory? Ham and cheese croissants.
I need a croissant!
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, Did You See This One? And take a peek into the darkness with Heard Noise, Must Investigate with Michael Chan. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mario Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.